Hard Rockology, Chris and Matt back in with you. Dead City Ruins is the name of the band. The song is called Till Death. And let's welcome to the show the man behind the voice, Jake Wiffen. Jake, thanks for taking time out to join the Hard Rockology Show.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Not much, man. We're really glad to get a hold of you. We were trying to get a hold of you when you were down in Australia. But it looks like you guys packed up your bags and headed over to England, Germany. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what's it like over there now that you guys have set up camp over there?
Yeah, man. Well, this is the fourth time we've been over to Europe and the UK. We love coming over here. There's a lot of pubs to play and a lot of towns to go to, and the people really love it. So, we're in England at the moment. It's snowing and it's a bit cold for us Australians. We're not used to the cold, but we love it over here, man. And a lot of fans are coming out to the small pubs because last time they saw us, we were on tour with Skid Row and Ugly Kid Joe, and that was a bit over a year now. So they're pretty happy to have us back. It's good, man. We're having a good time.
Now, that being said, 'cause I know last time you were over there in Europe, you were sleeping in tents. So you guys still sleeping in tents, or have you guys
upgraded
a little bit?
Funny enough, man, tonight we're sleeping in the van because there's no accommodation. So, yeah, usually we get a hotel these days, but occasionally from time to time we have to sleep in the van. So we're still doing it rough, but all in the name of rock and roll, brother.
So being that you guys are in England, is that a double-decker van that you guys are sleeping in, or is it just a single-loaded van?
We wish it was a double-decker, man. That'd be awesome. No, we've just got a Mercedes Sprinter. We've bolted some beds into it, and we just get in there in our sleeping bags and just, figure it out.
Now, the new release, Dead City Ruins, I know it's been out on digital format late 2013 into 2014, and I know the album was just released on CD earlier this year. So what kind of response have you guys been getting for the new release, and are the fans out there really appreciating what you guys are doing?
Yeah, man, it's been nothing but positive feedback so far. We seem to be getting a fair bit of radio play in Europe and in America. A lot of people are buying the album, and especially we did like a limited edition run on vinyl, and we've pretty much sold out of those. So people are loving it, man. It's really good.
I noticed that when I first picked up the record that a lot of the tracks are quite long. I'm not used to seeing tracks over like 4 or 5 minutes nowadays with all the bands that Matt and I listen to, and it's kind of rare that you see like a bunch of songs maybe 4.5 minutes to 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, is that something that you guys planned on doing, or was there any pressure from like, say, the label to say, hey, you guys keep these songs down to maybe 3.5 to 4 minutes?
Well, pretty much with this album, we did this album all on our own backs. We paid for it ourselves, and then after we had the album done, Metalville picked it up. They were pretty psyched. They saw us on the Skid Row tour, and they really liked the album, so they picked it up and put it out. But we'd already done it, so a lot of the tracks are pretty long. And I think these days record companies want you to keep your tracks kind of down to 3.5 minutes, but because we paid for this record ourselves, we got to pretty much do whatever we want, man, and we just let the songs kind of flow how they were, and some of them came in at 4 or 5 minutes, but that's how we wanted them, so that's how it ended up like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I like the idea that there's 4, 5, 6 minute long songs, and it's a little bit of a change compared to like the standard album nowadays. It's 10 songs, 3.5 minutes long.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, it doesn't really make that much sense because rock and roll bands aiming to get on commercial radio these days is a little bit hard, like not that many commercial radio stations are playing rock and roll. So why don't we just make the songs how we want them? The people who listen to rock and roll want to hear slightly longer songs anyway. So write it for ourselves, write it for the people, and people are going to buy it and listen to it anyway, man.
Now, when you guys went into the studio for this album, the first album you guys self-produced and pretty much did everything yourself. Now, what was the experience like on the second album? I know you had James Lugo came in there, did some engineering and stuff like that. So what was that experience like for you?
It was different, man. Like, the first album we did, I think we recorded it in 5 days and mixed it and mastered it in maybe like an extra day or two. So it was really just jump in the fire and get it all going. With flying in James Lugo and getting him to do the engineering and everything, there was a lot more pre-production that we put into it. A lot more thought went into the songs, and having someone there to kind of, guide us through it and say, oh, maybe make this bit a bit more like that or shorten that bit. It was good, man. It was definitely different, but we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it, and we think the record came out all the better for it. So.
Well, you said you did about 5 or 6 days on the first album. What was the turnaround time from laying down the tracks?
Yeah, man. Yeah, the first album we recorded really quickly. We just jumped in there and smashed it out.
So on the new release, how long did it take you guys to lay down the tracks and get that album out? Was it a little bit longer? About what kind of time frame were you looking at?
In the studio or with pre-production?
A little bit of both,
yeah. Quite a fair bit of. Yeah, well, we probably nutted the songs out in pre-production over, a few months, just working a couple of days a week, nights and stuff, kind of whittling the songs down to how we wanted them. And then I think we're in the studio for this one for 2 weeks.
So still, you guys are putting together an album in less than a couple months, where a lot of bands today are taking a year or 2 years to put out an album. So, I mean, how does it feel to go kind of back to the old way that bands were doing it?
I don't know why anyone would take, a year or two to put out an album these days, especially when the bigger bands have got, all the money. I guess they just, there's more expectations, so they have to take longer to do it. But if you just get in there and jam and just let it come easy as, sometimes the shorter that you're in the studio, the better, because songs can get, dragged out and kind of lose the essence of it.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm getting from the album when I listen to it. It sounds like you guys are in the studio, you guys are bouncing around ideas, and it just becomes this big jam, and then all of a sudden you guys have a song. I mean, it seems to me, from the first album to the second album, you haven't lost any energy. I mean, if I go see you guys live, it's almost exactly the way it's going to sound on the album.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And that's the way we wanted to do it. I mean, I know bands in the past have spent months and months in the studio and then they can't play the bloody songs live. They've got so many vocal tracks and harmonies and guitar parts that they literally can't play it live. Whereas if you come and see us, we sound better live than we do on the record.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I got. You got 2 great guitar players in your band now. I mean, tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, man. Tommy and Blanche they've been mates since they were little kids, so they really get along, and it shows in their playing, man. Like, more and more we write a lot of songs that are quite Thin Lizzy influenced, with dual guitars and harmonies and double solos and stuff like that. The fans love seeing that stuff. I mean, man, I love seeing bands with 2 guitars doing a lot of solos. So we just kind of let those guys, do whatever they want, really, and they just feed off each other. The energy's awesome, man.
But I do have to ask you, Tommy Teabag, is that really his name? If that was his name growing up.
I don't think it is his name, Matt.
No,
man, that's not his real name, but it's a nickname that we gave him. For some reason, all Australians have nicknames, and Teabag is what we call him. So,
I mean, are you calling him Teabag? Was he teabagged growing up, or exactly how did that nickname come about?
Oh man, he's a funny dude, and he's pretty hilarious when he's drinking. So we've got quite a few nicknames for him, and I think Teabag was just a nickname that he picked up on one of our tours.
On your album, you have a song called Dio, a tribute to Ronnie James Dio. Tell me a little bit about that, and what was it like writing that song?
That was one of those songs that just came out of nowhere, man. I had the good fortune of seeing Ronnie James Dio play a few times as Dio and in Heaven and Hell as well. And I watched a lot of interviews with him, and he's always been an inspirational guy, not just his voice in rock and roll, but his attitude towards life and people. And I think I was just sitting around my house listening to Heaven and Hell's most recent album, and that song just came to me, man, and I penned it out, and, you know, it's one of those weird songs that just came, like I wrote it in 5 minutes, so.
Interesting. Well, speaking of influences, obviously Dio is one of them. You have any other musicians, famous, living or dead, that inspired you to become a singer?
Yeah, man. It's funny, I was talking about this today. It's always hard to list all of your influences and inspirations, but, I mean, my earliest inspiration was Black Sabbath, you know. I got into my mum's records and found Sabbath, and I think I put on the Paranoid album, and just blew me away how evil it was. And Ozzy's voice is just killer. So, you know, I grew up listening to a lot of that. Then when I was a teenager, I got more into stuff like European metal, like Blind Guardian, and started listening to Iced Earth, and a lot of power metal, like Halloween and stuff like that. So, you know, man, I love a lot of stuff. Pretty much if it's 70s rock or 70s, 80s heavy metal, I love it. So.
Now, I do have a question for you regarding Dead City Ruins. If somebody came up to you guys and said, give us 2 tracks from you guys that really epitomizes what you guys are and what you guys are all about, which 2 tracks would you guys tell them to listen to?
Well, I would probably say Till Death and Appenzeller. They're 2 songs that are punchy, and, you know, like Till Death's it's maybe one of our shorter songs, even though it's not that short. But it's punchy, and it's got the Sabbath influences in there. And then Appenzeller's got a lot of guitar work in it. The vocals are a little higher in that one. That really shows our kind of 70s metal influences, and I think those 2 songs really come across what we're about.
Till Death has the video for the song, too. Whose idea was it to drag the casket behind the car in the video?
That was mine, man. I built that casket myself.
It was an interesting video. I mean, the way you guys shot it and filmed it, and I mean, obviously you guys are on a budget somewhat, but I mean, it still came out really good. And if people haven't seen it, you got to check out the video for Till Death. You can find it on YouTube anywhere, but it's really an interesting video, especially when the casket's getting dragged behind from with the car. It's very interesting.
Yeah, man, it's a bit of an evil song, and I thought, you know, having a bit of a deranged, evil film clip, you know, the way it's really slow and some of it's filmed backwards and having the casket in there and stuff. It was a lot of fun to make, man.
A couple of other bands that we had on the show, and obviously I think you might be familiar with Electric Mary and Massive.
I think the storms may be affecting the reception here, man.
No,
dropped out again.
Okay, basically...
Oh, there we go.
All right, you can hear me now. Okay. Yeah, basically, we were going to ask you, because there's a couple other bands outside of AC/DC that we've had on the show and we've interviewed, and weren't sure if you had a chance to maybe tour with some of these guys, one of them being Massive, the other one being Electric Mary, and Heaven the Axe is another female-fronted band from Australia. Had a chance to work or play with any of those bands?
Yeah, man, we played with Heaven the Axe and Massive. We're mates with Rusty, the singer of Electric Mary. The Australian music scene's pretty tight, man. Like, pretty much if you're in a rock band or a metal band, especially in Melbourne, we all know each other. We all drink at the same pubs, and we all pretty much play on the same bills. So, yeah, we know all those guys really well.
Well, speaking of drinking, what's the beverage of choice for Dead City Ruins?
Oh, man, we're poverty-stricken rock and roll band, dude. We'll drink anything you put in front of us.
So if I'm putting gasoline in front of you, you're drinking it?
Now, what about Foster's?
Yeah.
You gonna put Foster's in front of you?
Yeah, you drinking Foster's?
Mate, if you put gasoline in a beer bottle, we'll probably drink it.
All right. How about a Foster's beer?
You know, we'll drink that stuff if we have to, but it's definitely not our favourite drink. I know America's got a lot of great beers going on at the moment. I was just working at a pub for a couple of months back home, and we'll get a lot of North American beers and Canadian beers. I don't know. I really love rum myself, but
yeah,
like I said, man.
I was going to ask you about that because I'm assuming the band's name, Dead City Ruins, came after your you're splurging with a bottle of rum. Now, were you actually drinking the bottle of rum, or were you just drinking rum? So I wanted a little bit of clarification. Do you have the big bottle on the bar when you were drinking, or
Because
what?
the name of the band came from it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, always. I lived in England a lot when I was in my early 20s, and man, all I did was sit around drinking rum because it does nothing but rain over here all the time, dude. So I'd either be out watching bands or working in a pub, and either way, I was always drinking rum. So I love that stuff.
All right, you got a preference for your rum? That way, if we get a chance to see, I'll have a bottle chilled for you.
Yeah, man, Sailor Jerry's.
All right, it's a deal, man. If you guys make it over to the States, I'll have a bottle waiting for you.
All right, I got a couple more questions for
brother.
you. Got a couple more questions for you, Jake. Spinal Tap Moment. You've been in bands for quite a while. I'm sure you've had some, right?
Oh, man, Spinal Tap Moment. Touring, it's full of them, man. We've literally done the backstage thing, can't find the entrance to the stage. We did that on the Skid Row tour. We played in some venue in England, I believe, up northern England, and I got locked outside and couldn't get back in. You know,
That's
there's
classic.
always moments like that on tour, man. One of the best ones in our early days, we were driving up the east coast of Australia to play a show, and we blew our van up and had to trade our van to a tow truck to get a lift to the show. So we ended up giving our van away just to get to the bloody show. That was a good one.
That's a classic Spinal Tap
A tow
moment.
truck. It showed up to the show in a tow truck.
Yeah, dude. He just loaded the van on the back. We got in the tow truck and he drove us to the venue. We got our gear out and off he went with our van because we couldn't afford to pay him, you know.
Classic, man. Only in Australia. I mean, was it like one of those Mad Max tow trucks going on, or what?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Road Warrior style.
All right, Jake. So what's the band have plans for the rest of 2015? What do you guys got going on? You'll be busy in the UK. You going anywhere else in Europe?
Yeah, man. We're on tour in the UK for another 2 weeks, and then we're off to Belgium. Then we've got a run of shows in Germany and Switzerland, Austria, down to Italy for a while. We've got some shows in France, and that's all the way up till June. Then we've got a couple of festivals in Belgium and Italy. We're going to try and get to Spain. And then we're trying to get to the States, man. We're just looking for a booking agent that can get us the shows, man. And as soon as we got the shows, we'll be over there.
Jake, I want to say thank you for joining us here on the Hard Rockology Show. And like we do with all of our guests, why don't you go ahead and introduce another track off your latest release, Dead City Ruins, self-titled, and give us a little intro to this next song and take us out of the interview.
Awesome, man. I just want to say thanks for having us on the show, dude. Thanks for spreading the love. Rock and roll bands, you know, we need as much support as we can get. We all got to stick together and help each other out. No one else is going to help us. This next song that you guys are going to play is called Appenzella. We actually wrote this in Switzerland when we were on tour in 2013. We always stay with our mates in Switzerland. They've got this little bunker underneath like a truck shipping container or something like that. And they always stock it with booze for us. And at this one time they had this Jägermeister style spirit called Appenzella. And we must have spent a week there, man, just getting messed up on that stuff and just jamming. And this is the song that came from it, called Appenzella.